Look around you for a second. Someone in your life has been playing a game where the rules were fixed before you even took a seat. They smile like nothing can touch them. They walk into a room, pull all the air toward themselves, and leave you doubting your own memory, your own peace, even your own value. You have seen them break rules and still come out clean. You have watched them step on people, lie with a straight face, and move on while everyone else is left carrying the damage. And in the quiet part of the night, one question keeps rising in your mind. When do they pay for it? When does the balance finally shift? When does karma actually arrive? Here is what changes everything. You may be watching for the wrong sign. You may be waiting for a big public fall, a dramatic exposure, a perfect confession, or some movie-like collapse that gives you closure. You may be waiting to see them cry, admit what they did, or finally suffer in a way that feels visible. But while you wait for that loud ending, you miss the darker truth already happening behind their eyes. Their karma is not late. It is not sitting somewhere in the future. It is already active. Their downfall is already in motion, and once you really see it, you will never fear them in the same way again. Stay with me, because this is where the picture changes. What we are talking about here is not magic. It is not a mystical force floating in from the sky. It is human behavior. It is the hard cost of living inside constant self-deception. Over time, every action charges a price to the mind and body. What many people call karma is often the growing debt created by repeated lies, control, image management, and emotional fraud. The narcissist is not going to suffer only one day far from now. In many ways, they are already suffering right now. The mask they wear is not really their power, it is their prison. To understand why their fall is built in, you have to understand how their inner system works. Deep under the image they show the world sits old shame, old fear, and a deep feeling of not being enough. Because they cannot face that pain in a healthy way, they build a false version of themselves. That false self has to look strong, special, flawless, superior, and always correct. But a fake structure always needs fuel. It cannot stand on its own. Every hour of every day, they have to manage what people think, hide signs of fear, twist events, and protect the image at all costs. That takes enormous energy. It means constant mental pressure. It means there is no real rest. And if you keep listening, you will start to see why the very thing that makes them look powerful is the same thing slowly breaking them down from the inside. Think about the weight of that. They do not move through life in peace. They move through life in defense mode. Everyone around them becomes either a possible threat or a possible source of supply. They are not looking at people as full human beings. They are scanning, measuring, testing. They must keep track of what they said, what lie they used, which version of the story they gave to which person, and how to protect their image if someone starts asking the wrong question. That is not freedom. That is constant strain. It is mental overwork without a day off. It is hypervigilance that never really shuts down. They are always watching for disrespect, rejection, exposure, or loss of control. Even when they look calm, their system is often running like an alarm that never stops ringing. This is why so many of them seem tense, reactive, or cold beneath the polished surface. The image may look smooth, but the internal machinery is grinding hard every second. And here is the part many people miss. That grinding does not make them stronger over time. It wears them down. slowly, quietly, relentlessly. The cost keeps building. That is why karma for them is not always a public scene. Sometimes it is the simple fact that they can never relax, never trust, and never feel safe inside their own life. Keep watching because the next part gets even more revealing. Once you understand how they deal with people, you will see why their world almost always starts shrinking. At first, they can be highly effective. That is part of the trap. They use charm, confidence, strong eye contact, perfect timing, and a polished image to pull people in fast. They mirror what others want. They say the right things. They create intensity. They can look magnetic in the beginning. But influence built on performance never lasts for long. Because they see life as a win-lose game, they do not know how to build real trust. They know how to create impact. They know how to create dependency. They know how to create confusion. But real emotional capital, the kind that grows through honesty, care, and mutual respect, is something they usually cannot maintain. So the pattern repeats. First comes idealization, big attention, big praise, big connection. Then comes subtle devaluing, small cuts, mixed signals, boundary tests, quiet disrespect. The target starts feeling anxious and off balance. Later comes direct exploitation, gaslighting, blame shifting, and open hostility. Finally, when the person starts pulling away or seeing clearly, the narcissist burns the bridge and often launches a smear campaign to protect the image. Watch the pattern closely, and you will see something important. Over time, emotionally healthy people leave. People with strong boundaries stop participating. What remains is often a smaller circle made of those who can be manipulated, those who want something, or those who are toxic in similar ways. Their world becomes thinner, colder, and less real. This is where the hidden collapse becomes easier to spot. A person can fool many people for a season. They cannot fool life forever. The narcissist may collect attention, admiration, promotions, or social victories for a time, and that can make it seem like they are untouchable. But those wins often work like a loan taken against reality. Every lie, every act of gaslighting, every manipulation used to protect the image, every false story used to hide weakness. It all borrows peace from the future. And that debt grows interest. A healthy person can feel guilt, reflect, repair, and grow. That creates internal correction. But the narcissist rejects shame so quickly that the lesson never lands. Instead of processing pain, they project it. Instead of facing truth, they rewrite it. Instead of changing, they double down. Over time, this damages their ability to read reality clearly. They begin to misread kindness as weakness. They see normal boundaries as attacks. They treat simple disagreement like betrayal. Their nervous system stays stuck in stress mode, flooding them again and again with inner pressure. That chemical strain matters. Stress hormones do not care how polished someone looks in public. The body keeps score. The mind pays a tax. Focus narrows. Patience drops. Emotional control weakens. The result is simple and brutal. The very habits they use to survive start destroying their ability to live in peace. This is not symbolic, it is mechanical. And if you have ever wondered why they seem to create chaos everywhere they go, this is one big reason why. Now bring time into the picture, because time is where the false self starts losing power. In the early years, many narcissists depend heavily on surface advantages. It may be beauty, charm, energy, speed, position, status, a sharp voice, a polished body, social appeal, career authority. Those assets can help them run the game well for a while. They can attract new people, smooth over damage, escape accountability, start over with fresh audiences. But the false self is expensive to maintain, and time is not gentle with anything fake. As the years pass, energy naturally drops, appearance changes, mental speed shifts, emotional fatigue grows. The mind that once kept 10 stories running at once starts missing details. The gaslighting becomes less smooth. The lies become more obvious. The anger leaks out faster. The contempt shows up on the face before the words are even finished. People around them also change. Others grow up. They gain emotional intelligence. They learn boundaries. They recognize toxic patterns much faster than before. What once worked in one decade falls flat in the next. Guilt trips stop landing. Flattery looks cheap. Drama loses power. The narcissist then faces a terrifying problem. Their old tools stop producing the same results, but they usually do not have healthier tools to replace them. So they push harder. They become louder, meaner, more dramatic, or more desperate. And that desperation exposes them even more. This is where many people finally start seeing the person behind the image. There is also a relationship cost that becomes impossible to hide forever. Healthy relationships are built on trust, care, honesty, and mutual value. Over time, good relationships gather emotional credit. That credit helps people survive stress, mistakes, and hard seasons together. But a narcissist usually does not build a life around trust. They build a life around leverage. They study what people want, fear, need, or hope for, and they use that information to gain control. In the short term, it can look effective. They know how to become important fast. They know how to look helpful, wise, generous, or protective. But because the whole structure depends on keeping the upper hand, the relationship can never truly become equal. The moment another person grows stronger, more independent, or less reactive, the narcissist feels threatened. So the tactics intensify. More testing, more unpredictability, more emotional withdrawal, more punishment for healthy behavior. Eventually, high-value people stop playing. They see the one-sided pattern and leave. The inner circle then changes. It gets weaker. It gets more resentful. It gets more transactional. The narcissist ends up surrounded not by real loyalty, but by fragile arrangements and hidden bitterness. That is a dangerous place to live. When real crisis comes, a health issue, money trouble, public pressure, career trouble, or aging itself, those weak connections do not hold. The people who stayed for advantage leave for advantage, and the person who treated others like tools finds out, usually too late, that tools do not love you back. This is why what looks like immunity is often only delay. You may see them smiling in public, posting online, getting attention, collecting praise, or moving through life as if nothing touches them. That image can make you feel crazy. It can make you think justice failed. But do not confuse motion with peace. Do not confuse noise with strength. Many of them are living in a state of constant inner emergency. They cannot rest because rest would mean meeting themselves without distraction. They cannot be fully intimate because intimacy would require honesty. They cannot trust because they assume everyone works the way they do. They cannot fully enjoy what they have because every gain must be guarded, staged, and defended. This is why even when they win, the win feels hungry. It never settles. It never satisfies for long. Supply dries up. Attention fades. Admiration needs replacing. New people must be found. Old stories must be maintained. Fresh threats must be controlled. It becomes a treadmill with no finish line. That is not success. That is captivity with better lighting. And here is the hardest truth for people who were hurt by them. If you keep checking, watching, comparing, or waiting for the perfect visible punishment, you get tied to their cycle too. You stay emotionally connected to the very system that harmed you. The trap is not only what they did, the trap is also the attention they keep stealing after they are gone. And that is why the next point matters more than almost anything else. Their greatest weakness is not your anger, it is your indifference. Most people imagine the narcissist's final defeat as a dramatic ending, a public takedown, a loud exposure, a final argument where truth wins and everyone sees who they really are. It is understandable to want that. Pain wants a witness. But direct conflict often feeds the very system you want to destroy. Whether the reaction is praise or outrage, the narcissist still gets confirmation that they are the center of the emotional field. Your anger tells them they matter. Your obsession tells them they still have access to your mind. Your attempts to prove, explain, or force accountability can become fuel. The deeper defeat is quieter. It happens when people stop reacting, stop chasing closure, stop trying to decode every move, stop defending themselves to someone committed to distortion. Stop hoping for emotional fairness from a person who survives by avoiding it. When that happens, the game changes completely. Messages are not answered. Invitations fade. The emotional theater goes dark. The false self, which depends on attention and reaction, starts starving. Without people absorbing their projections, reflecting their fantasy, or participating in the script, the narcissist is left with a silence they cannot control. And silence is brutal for someone who spent a lifetime outrunning their own shame. No applause, no fight, no audience, just the echo of an empty structure. This is the part many never see from the outside, but it is real. A person who cannot sit peacefully with themselves is already living inside a punishment most people would never envy. So if you're waiting for some giant sign, shift your focus. The real sign may not be public at all. It may be the repeating pattern of burnout, broken trust, shrinking circles, rising bitterness, obvious slips, increasing paranoia, and a life that has to be forced every single day. It may be the fact that they need constant control because internally they feel none. It may be the way every relationship becomes tense, every room becomes strategic, and every season of life becomes harder to fake. Their downfall is not something you always get to watch, like a final scene in a film. Often it is already active in the structure of how they live, think, relate, and age. The punishment is built into the pattern. And this is where your own freedom begins. Stop waiting for their collapse to give you permission to heal. Stop borrowing pain from tomorrow by tracking their story today. You do not need to monitor the cage to know it exists. You do not need a confession to know what happened. You do not need them to understand your damage before you step back into your own life. Watch less. Notice more. Protect your peace. See the behavior clearly, but do not absorb it. This is important, so hear it closely. The more neutral you become, the weaker their hold becomes. The more grounded you become, the easier the script is to spot. And once you spot it, the fear starts to leave. In the end, their karma is not some distant thunder rolling in from another world. It is the daily reality of living cut off from truth, from rest, from genuine love, and from a stable inner self. It is the cost of choosing image over character, control over connection, performance over honesty, and ego over growth. Every day they avoid truth, the bill grows. Every day they distort reality, the mind becomes a harder place to live in. Every day they use people instead of loving them, their world loses more warmth and more depth. That is why their fall is already set. It was built the moment they chose the mask and then refused to take it off. Your role is not to force the ending. Your role is to step out of the blast radius. Let life do what life does. Let behavior complete its own consequences. Let false structures weaken under their own weight. The trap was built a long time ago, and in many cases they locked themselves inside it without even knowing it. So reclaim your attention, reclaim your sleep, reclaim your voice, reclaim the energy that was pulled into their chaos and place it back into your future. Because the moment you stop needing their downfall to be loud, you start seeing the truth that was there all along. Their prison did not begin when you left. It began the day they became the person they are. And once you fully understand that, the spell breaks.